Alright, so hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video, and today I want to go over my Umbral Chroma Prime setup, which from now on I'll be using to kill all the biggest of bads. Now this setup isn't as much of an overkill as a lot of other Chroma setups that are focused towards bossing, because I opted for a little bit less strength and more quality of life. So it multiplies your weapon damage by only 635%. But that is still more than enough to happily one-shot the different shield phases on the spider fight, as well as do egregious amounts of damage on all the Eidolons if you have the right weapons. Sometimes it can actually be a little bit too much damage when you're fighting the Profit Taker with the Imperator Vandal, because what happened to me on multiple occasions is that I would get lucky with crits and I would shred the leg in like under half a second, and the game would go, whoa, that can't be right, and it would regenerate it back to full. And it's not just one leg at a time. In this clip, for example, it happened with 3 of the 4 legs. So until this gets fixed, if it gets fixed, I would recommend you find the Profit Taker with the Corvus rather than the Imperator Vandal if you're using a setup like this. Now I actually ended up going with a much cheaper setup, so it only requires 2 format where you add a V and a D. Now one thing I did think about doing was actually changing into a different aura, but I don't think it would make that much of a difference, so I stuck with Steel Charge, which provides a ton of mod capacity. Then for my exile slot, I went with Handspring for the faster knockdown recovery, which is really good. It's about as fast as Prime Sure-Footed. Prime Sure-Footed is a little bit faster, but when it's combined with Constitution, it's about as good as Prime Sure-Footed. It's just really good, and it makes it so that you can actually recover from most knockdowns in the game before you hit the ground. And Constitution will also provide you with a little bit of power duration, which is stacked on top of the power duration from Prime Continuity and Narrow-Minded, which makes your abilities last for over a minute and makes them incredibly easy to sustain. This is one of the quality of life things that I decided to add in, but if you don't want it and you would rather have more damage, you can either take out Constitution or Streamline, which is there to balance out the efficiency loss from Blind Rage and put a Transient Fortitude instead. Though as I've said already, I don't think that's entirely necessary, because if you combine this with the right weapons, you're going to be doing stupid amounts of damage even with lower power strength. Next on the menu we have Adaptation, which in combination with Scorn and Arcane Grace makes you very beefy, though not unkillable, so if you just stand there and you face tank the enemies, you will die. But it will give you enough time to react and kind of deal with whatever's going on. Then we move on to the Umbra mod, so we have Umbra Vitality for the health and Umbra Intensify for a ton of strength and some tower resist as well, which does help during the Eidolon fights, and we top it all off with Blind Rage for even more power strength. Now, I think it's also worth mentioning that unlike with the Narrows, I'm not actually running the sort of standard Arcane Guardian Grace setup, but instead I'm running Arcane Nullifier, which gives you an 80% chance to completely ignore a magnetic proc, which is great for both the Eidolons and the Spider fight, and I'm running Arcane Graves, which has a chance to give you health regeneration when you get hit. Now, one thing about these kinds of setups is that you are multiplying your weapon damage so much, it's not actually worth it to invest into standard damage multiplication mods like Serration on your weapons, because all you're going to be doing is just adding to an already bloated multiplier. So for example, in my Imperator Vandal, I just took out Rubido Line Barrel, which wasn't adding an awful lot, and I put in Critical Focus instead. And as a little cherry on top, these kinds of setups also tend to benefit a lot from a Darzakavats, thanks to the Cat's Eye buff, which is an additive crit buff, which is a great multiplier, so get yourself an Darzakavat with that. I would also highly recommend you equip it with Medipet Kit, which will make it so that you have about a minute to revive it, because they will go down a lot during boss fights, and slap on Fetch for some vacuum. Now, you already saw how fast this can trash the Profit Taker, but that was without the shield phase number 1 and 3 of the 4 legs bugged out number 2, so let's do a full run with the shield phase and no bugs.
Is this a bad time?
D, what is it?
Satellite just moved. Nev's crew must have figured out our bypass. It's realigning.
Sparky, you're running out of time. You have to kill her now. We won't get another chance at this.
Dolly should not move. Dolly should not bow.
And there we go, Spider be dead. It's definitely not the fastest setup in the world, you can do it a little bit faster, but for me this is more than adequate. And as far as the Eidolon performance is concerned, there goes the joint, and then at the end I let it heal to full, so you can see the actual level of damage this kind of setup is going to be doing, rather than me shooting it once or twice and it dying. Though that of course is the performance with Rubico Prime, which I like. It just feels a lot better than the Lanka, but if you have a maxed out Lanka, you're gonna one-shot the joints and it's only gonna take a couple of shots to take it down at the end. And aside from all of that, it's just a very solid setup to run in any mission. It's very tanky and it does a lot of damage, though you're probably not going to max out the Fury buff, which is the one you get from taking damage to your health in most missions, because the enemies just aren't doing enough damage. And that is pretty much it for the video, so I thank you very much for watching. As always guys, I hope you've enjoyed it and I will see you next time. Bye bye.
Strong, united, working till we